Harper woke up to the sound of the wind lightly tapping against the bedroom window. The bed beside her was empty, the pillows untouched, with no sign that Cole had slept there. She reached out her hand, touching the cold space where he used to lie. 2 days. It had been 2 days since he left home with a small suitcase, taking only a few clothes and a look she couldn't decipher. He didn't say where he was going, and she didn't have the courage to ask. She sat on the bed, wrapped in the silence of the house that was once filled with laughter, conversations and plans. Now, only the echo of memories that seemed distant remained. Harper looked at the clock on the bedside table, but time seemed to have stopped. She got up, dragging her feet to the kitchen, where the cold coffee maker stared at her, as a reminder that nothing there was the same as before. While making coffee, Harper let her mind wander. She remembered the day she met Cole in that noisy university cafe. He was shy but persistent, coming back every day just to see her. She smiled, recalling their first date in the park, where he held her hand for the first time, palms sweaty, but the gesture full of sincerity. They were young, full of dreams, and a love that seemed invincible. The marriage was the happiest chapter of their lives, at least for a while. Cole, with his playful and optimistic nature, made Harper laugh even on the toughest days. He was light, while she was structure, the anchor that kept him grounded when his projects seemed to take on a life of their own. For years it worked. They complemented each other, danced in harmony, and the arguments were just small stumbles, never falls. But what was once light began to feel heavy. First came the usual arguments: overdue bills, broken promises, neglected chores. Then the annoyances grew. Words took on a different weight, and nights ended in silence, each turned to one side of the bed. And then they decided to have children. At first it was exciting. They dreamed together of the baby's room, discussed names, imagined what it would be like to see each other's reflection in a new life. But as the months went by, the tests continued to come back negative. Harper tried to hold on to hope, but with each unsuccessful cycle, she felt more defeated. Cole, always optimistic, insisted that they had time and that there was no rush. But his words sounded hollow to her, as if he didn't understand the weight of what was happening. The tests and doctors brought the truth that Harper feared. Her tests were not good and she couldn't get pregnant. And that's when everything truly began to fall apart. Cole wanted to talk, to seek alternatives. "We can adopt, try a treatment," he would say, holding her hands while she looked away. But Harper couldn't see him without feeling guilty. If she loved him, how could she condemn him to a life without children, without the chance to be a father? The distance came quickly. Harper stopped talking about the future. She avoided his touch. At first, Cole tried to stay calm to give her space, but his optimism soon turned into frustration. "You need to talk to me," he exclaimed one night after she had spent hours silent, staring at the television without really watching anything. "Talk about what, Cole? That I feel like a burden? That every time you look at me, I can only think of what you're giving up?" "I'm not giving up on anything, Harper. I chose you." "But I didn't choose to be like this." The argument escalated. In the following months, fighting became routine. Anything was a reason. The sound of the alarm clock, a plate left in the sink, forgetting an important date. But deep down, it wasn't about that. It was about everything they didn't say. Until one day, Cole stopped insisting. He no longer argued, didn't slam the door, didn't raise his voice, and that hurt more than any fight. Harper felt her chest tighten. It hurt too much to know that it wasn't the lack of love that separated them, but the exhaustion of fighting for something they no longer knew if they could save. Now, Harper was alone in the apartment that was once theirs. She looked at the envelope on the kitchen table, the lawyer's name marked in cold letters. They were going to sign the divorce, officially ending their 10-year marriage. And so, they arrived at that fateful morning in the lawyer's office. Harper, with a heavy heart and a mind in turmoil. Cole, confused and hurt but resigned. The lawyer, a middle-aged man with thin-rimmed glasses, explained the terms of the agreement in a monotone voice that seemed to come from far away. Harper held the pen so tightly that her fingers ached. She looked at Cole, sitting on the other side of the table. He was staring at her with such intensity that it made her shiver. For a moment, she almost faltered. She almost told everything, almost begged for help. But then she remembered all the lonely nights, all the unspoken words, and hardened her heart. It was then that Cole said something that changed everything. "Stop, Harper. Don't sign that. I know you're sick." The world seemed to stop. Harper felt as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. How did he know? How could he know? "What did you say?" she managed to stammer, her voice trembling. Cole leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers. "I know you have cancer, Harper." The lawyer looked from one to the other, clearly confused by the sudden turn of events. Harper felt the blood drain from her face, her heart pounding against her ribs. "You're imagining things," she murmured, looking away. But she knew it was useless. Cole had always been able to read her thoughts, even when she tried to hide them. "I'm not," he said softly. "I found the tests this morning when I went to get my things from the apartment." Hours earlier, Cole had gone to their apartment to gather his belongings and move on. While rummaging through a drawer, he found an envelope with the name of a medical clinic. Curious, he opened it and came across a test result: uterine cancer. The floor seemed to disappear beneath his feet. He read and reread the words, trying to process what they meant. Harper was sick, and he didn't know. Worse, she was facing this alone. At that moment, Cole realized that he could truly lose her. Not to divorce, but forever. And something inside him awakened. He couldn't let her go through this alone, not after everything they had been through together. And then, back to that moment in the cold room where they were. Harper closed her eyes, feeling the tears she had repressed for so long finally overflow. "You shouldn't have gone through my things," she whispered, "and you shouldn't have hidden something like this from me." Cole's voice came out louder than he intended, laden with emotion. "My God, Harper, did you really think I would let you go through this alone?" She didn't respond immediately. How to explain the paralyzing fear that consumed her? How to put into words the terror of being a burden, of watching love turn into duty, into obligation? "What do you want me to say, Cole?" She finally spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "That I was scared? That I didn't want you to stay out of pity?" She had discovered the result days before they signed the papers. She didn't have the courage to tell him. They were barely speaking. She had a mix of feelings. It was hard to handle, but she didn't expect what could happen. Cole reached across the table, taking her hand in his. The touch, so familiar, and at the same time so strange after months of distance, sent shivers across her skin. "Do you want to know why our marriage has come to this?" he asked softly. "Because we stopped fighting for each other. But I'm still here, Harper. And if there's one thing this moment is teaching me, it's that I don't want to lose you." The words hit Harper like waves, washing away years of accumulated hurt and resentment. She looked into his eyes and, for the first time in a long time, saw something she hadn't seen in years. It wasn't just the calm, comfortable love that settles after years of being together. It was that intense, passionate love that faces any storm. "I'm not going anywhere," Cole said, squeezing her hand. The lawyer cleared his throat discreetly, realizing there would be no more divorce to sign that day. Harper and Cole barely noticed him. At that moment, it was just the two of them in the world. "But what if—" Harper began, her voice trembling. "What if I don't?" Cole interrupted her, placing a finger gently on her lips. "No, don't even think about it. We will face this together, one day at a time." She nodded slowly, feeling a huge weight lifted off her shoulders. It wouldn't be easy, she knew. The road ahead would be difficult and frightening, but now she was no longer alone. The lawyer, realizing his work there was finished, discreetly gathered the divorce papers and put them away in his briefcase. Harper and Cole remained seated, hands intertwined, lost in their own thoughts. It was Cole who finally broke the silence. "Shall we go home?" he asked softly. Harper hesitated for a moment. Home. The word had a new meaning now. It was not just a place, but a feeling. Safety, comfort, love. "Yes," she replied, a small smile forming on her lips. "Let's go home." They left the office hand in hand, leaving behind not only the divorce papers, but also years of misunderstandings and poor communication. The future was still uncertain, full of challenges and obstacles. But now they would face it together. In the weeks and months that followed, Harper and Cole rediscovered the love that had initially brought them together. The medical appointments, exhausting treatments, nights of fear and uncertainty, all of this brought them closer in a way they never imagined possible. Cole was there every step of the way. He held Harper's hand during chemotherapy sessions, read stories to her on nights when the pain kept her awake, and constantly reminded her of her strength and beauty, even on the toughest days. Harper, in turn, found a new appreciation for life and love. Every moment with Cole became precious, every conversation more meaningful. They began dreaming together again, making plans for the future, no matter how distant or uncertain that future might be. Almost 2 years after that day at the lawyer's office, Harper received the news they had been waiting for. Remission. The cancer had regressed, and although the road was still long, there was hope. That night, as they celebrated with a simple dinner at home, Cole surprised Harper with a velvet box. "I know we're already married," he said, opening the box to reveal a delicate diamond ring. "But I want to renew our vows. I want to promise you, once again, and with even more certainty, that I will be by your side in sickness and in health, in good times and bad." Harper, with tears in her eyes, just nodded, unable to speak. Cole slipped the ring onto her finger, sealing the promise with a gentle kiss. Months later, in an intimate ceremony in the garden of their home, the same garden where they had built so many memories together, Harper and Cole renewed their vows. Surrounded by friends and family, they promised eternal love once again. This time, the words "in sickness and in health" carried a weight and meaning they could never have imagined years before. It was not just a beautiful phrase in a ceremony, but a promise lived, tested, and strengthened by the fire of adversity. As they exchanged rings and glances laden with emotion, Harper and Cole knew that true love was not about perfection or always happy moments. It was about choosing to stay, even when it would be easier to leave. It was about finding beauty in difficult moments, strength in vulnerability, and hope even on the darkest days. And so, with a kiss that sealed not just a new beginning but also the journey that brought them there, Harper and Cole embarked on the next phase of their lives. The future was still uncertain, as it always is. But now they knew with an unshakable certainty that they would face any challenge together. Because in the end, it wasn't just those words spoken in the lawyer's office that changed everything. It was the thousands of words, gestures, and moments shared since then. It was the love rediscovered, strengthened, and deeper than ever. And this, they knew, was stronger than any obstacle life could place in their path. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.